would seem that ISIS rose almost overnight to become the global concern we discuss every day. Of course, nothing so organized merely springs up, rather is always years in the making. But are we here in America guilty of not only overestimating the impact of these terrorists in the homeland, but are we also helping to do their dirty work for them? He is a Canadian independent journalist and writer specializing in issues of foreign policy and international affairs, also co-founder of the Non-Aligned Media and author of Grand Deceptions, Zionist Intrigue in the 20th and 21st Centuries, Brandon Martinez. Brandon, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me on.
Brandon, I'll tell you that what you say here would smack right in the face of what so many people here in America have been told over and over again. For instance, I have in my hand here 11 reasons why ISIS might be more dangerous than al-Qaeda, and we are told this simply because they are very well funded and they're much more sophisticated. How then do you come to the idea and the concept, perhaps, that we've overestimated them?
Well, I would suggest that ISIS, like its predecessor al-Qaeda, as Hillary Clinton admitted, was funded by the CIA back in the 80s as a Cold War destabilization project in Afghanistan. The CIA was aiming to draw the Soviets into Afghanistan, and they did this by funding the Mujahideen in order to depose the pro-Soviet regime in Kabul. And
but how are we overestimating them? That's the point. How are we overestimating them now? I understand the whole history here, but let's bring it to 2015, where they have more money than any other terrorist group actually in existence at this moment, thanks to oil. Why then would we be overestimating them?
Well, overestimating them in the sense that they're being overblown and the actual origins of the group are not being talked about. I mean, who's funding ISIS? Where do they get their weapons? Where do they get their Toyota pickups and all of their sophisticated weaponry?
Well,
this didn't just happen overnight.
They're flush with money. They're basically buying it on the black market every single day, and that's where they're getting their weapons from.
We know that NATO and the CIA were sponsoring the same stock and breed of militants that are currently fighting in Syria in Libya. We forget that 4 years ago, NATO intelligence and the CIA were backing ISIS and al-Qaeda-linked rebels to depose Gaddafi. So we know from history that the CIA has dialectically been using Islamic mercenaries against target regimes.
But wait a minute, let's focus on ISIS. We only have a few minutes here. I want to focus on this. Yeah. 2 minutes left here. Are you saying that the CIA is funding ISIS?
I'm saying that ISIS, as a New York Times report confirmed from 2007, is a manufactured creation of Western intelligence and Israeli intelligence.
The CIA funding them? Is the CIA funding them? Yes or no?
Yes, the CIA and its allies in the Gulf.
Right now, do you have evidence right now that the CIA is funding ISIS? Because there's nowhere that we can find any evidence of that whatsoever.
Well, we know that the CIA was working with ISIS-affiliated fighters in Libya and provided them with weaponry. And the front group, the FSA, the Free Syrian Army, this is the soft public relations face for this opposition in Syria. We know that Israel has been helping these ISIS fighters in the Golan region. A UN report confirmed that Israel has been giving sanctuary and hospital care to ISIS and Jabhat al-Nusra fighters and has been bombing Syrian military sites in order to aid the ISIS insurgency. The former Israeli ambassador to the U.S. said that they're not concerned with ISIS, that their main threat is Iran, Hezbollah, and
but
Damascus.
We're still getting down to the main point here again. Unfortunately, we have very little time here. There's no proof that the CIA is currently funding ISIS at this point. There's no proof that the CIA is right now funding al-Qaeda at this proof. Do you have documented proof of this? Because it has been rumored, but nobody has any proof that money's actually flowing to them at this time. Because if the CIA was funding ISIS, wouldn't they be funding then the killing of Americans?
Well, this is the point. They create their own enemies and use their own enemies as a justification to invade. The goal is not to defeat ISIS. The goal is to overthrow Bashar al-Assad's regime. This goes back to Israeli strategy in the region of this Oded Yanon plan of fragmenting and fracturing the Middle Eastern countries so that Israel can then rule the roost.
So again, what you're saying is this is all about putting Israel into power, yes?
Absolutely. We know from the neoconservative groups like Project for New American Century and before that the IASPS in Israel that neocons have been plotting the overthrow of the Syrian government, the Iraqi government, the Libyan government, and the Iranian government.
Unfortunately, we are all out of time, Brandon. I'll tell you what, we will have to follow this up at another time because we are out of time. We'll have to look into some of the proof because, frankly, none exists that we can find at this time. Brandon Martinez, thank you so much for joining us.